Today on Technado, we'll take a look at the big stories in tech this week, including some announcements out of CES and a robot getting run over by a Tesla. We'll also take a moment to talk with Vonne Smith from ITProTV about Office 2019 and Office 365 for Microsoft. That's all coming up on Technado, starting right now. Hello and welcome to Technado. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, and I'm joined as always by Don Pizzette, because we're in his office, and this is where he always is. But today we have a special guest here, Vonne Smith from ITProTV, and Vonne's one of the edutainers here. Vonne, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm super excited to be on your show.
Remind the folks the things that you edutain us on.
I focus primarily on the Office applications, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. What are the other ones? Outlook.
OneNote.
Oh, yes, OneNote.
It's not
yes.
a good sign.
Yeah.
Publisher, front page, Groove.
Paint.
No.
Bob.
Nope.
Have you tried the Paint 3D?
No.
It's kind of fun.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's pretty cute. I barely know how to use it, but it's kind of fun.
I remember when they announced it, and I was like, wow, of all the products Microsoft makes, I never found myself saying, God, I wish they would upgrade Microsoft Paint.
Yeah, well, why would you? It's perfect.
It's the total package.
If there's any perfect product. Well, we'll get to that. Definitely, we have some questions for you about the new Office 2019 and some other Microsoft-related things. But first, we have to get to the news. And, well, I think the big story this week is Don's laptop exploded.
It didn't actually explode. It reached the point where it was going to explode. So.
And you were saying you were doing a lot of stuff on it. You were moving a lot of files, and it just got hot?
I'm not sure if... So there's debates. And actually, if Apple, if you're watching, it totally wasn't my fault. It's absolutely your engineers. But I did run my laptop at 100% CPU for about a week and a half with the lid closed, which granted is not usually recommended behavior for a laptop. But my argument would be, if it's capable of running at 100% CPU with the lid closed, then the engineers should have designed thermal venting to handle that. So, but yeah, the battery popped, so it started to swell up, and that's usually what leads to the chamber breaking and the fire catching. So, the Apple tech said they hadn't seen that in a 2017 MacBook or 2018 MacBook yet. So, I'm special.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just on the front edge of a new battery recall.
Are the vents on the top? These are speakers?
They're actually in between your monitor and your keyboard.
Oh, so
it's kind of leveraged that channel.
You kind of close that when you... Okay.
And when you close it, it does obstruct a little bit, but they're supposed to vent backwards. And I would assume they do.
Yeah.
But
just not good enough.
Hey, it's under warranty.
Florida. Yeah, no, it's just hot here.
Well, when you said the battery swelled, I'm like, is that an actual thing? That can happen? And I was like, oh, that sounds bad.
When you put it down,
yeah.
It would actually...
In those lithium-ion batteries, there's two chemicals, right? And they're separated by a barrier. The barrier is usually just like foil or something. It's not anything crazy. If the two chemicals touch each other, they catch on fire.
It's like Die Hard.
And what?
The Die Hard in New York, where the two chemicals mix.
Oh, yeah.
Essentially.
What was it, George Washington High School or something like that?
Lithium-ion
or Washington...
batteries.
Cleveland High School.
Grover Cleveland.
Grover Cleveland?
I
don't remember. You had to remember who the 13th president was.
I just know he's getting too old for this stuff.
Yeah, that's right. But so that's how those batteries catch on fire. And remember when the Galaxy Notes were banned on airplanes? It was because when they would charge, they would swell up. They had no room to expand, and they would rupture. The chemicals would touch, and they catch on fire. So my laptop had room to expand. That's why it was warped when I came in the morning, and it wouldn't sit flat on the table.
Yeah, it's made from the same material as those Jiffy Pop things, so it just kind of...
That's right. That's good. So I'm on my backup, my Linux laptop. Actually, I'm booted
running
on Windows right now.
Yeah. Perfect.
I'm all over the place.
Well, let's get to the actual news, and this first story is a really uplifting one to start off. This one's over on ArsTechnica. They're dead to us. The ArsTechnica 2019 Death Watch. So these are the companies that ArsTechnica is predicting will not be companies by the end of 2019. So I'm assuming we have Kmart here. And
so they've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, maybe longer, but I've been aware of it for 4 or 5 years. They have a pretty good track record. They do focus on tech companies for the most part, although they did a special call out for Goop this year. Are you guys familiar with Goop?
Yeah. Gwyneth Paltrow, right?
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Or lifestyle website thing.
So
Yeah.
they have a theory that health products with no associated scientific value is probably not a lasting market. But anyhow, they do have some pretty good track record as far as identifying companies that are failing. And this year they have a pretty good rundown. Where is the rundown? So they've got not Facebook the company, but Facebook management. They figure that by the end of 2019, we'll probably see most of Facebook management changed out. They really predict all the way to the top that it might be time for Mark Zuckerberg to not be CEO.
Wow. Well, I mean, he didn't come in with a lot of experience as CEO, if I recall.
No, he was a developer. He was a college student, but you could say that of a number of CEOs.
Sure.
But there have been so many missteps this year that have affected the company PR-wise that that hurts their membership base, and their membership base is how they make money. Now, I'm not a big Facebook user. Vonne, do you use Facebook? More than a little bit, I take it. So, what is your opinion like of all this weird stuff that's happened as far as like sharing of information and all? Has that affected your usage at all, or do you just say, it's going to happen anyway?
I mean, everything's out there anyways. I kind of, if you're on the internet, your information's out there. So kind of get over it. Like, that's my opinion. It hasn't changed anything.
All right. You're not just saying that because JT was in the Social Network movie, are you? Like, does Facebook get a pass?
Maybe.
Well, isn't he also like a MySpace?
Oh yeah, he was a
like
promoter.
He funded it,
yeah, he like tried to do like the resurgence of it, and I don't think it went very well.
I mean, I'm sure you went.
Actually, I didn't.
No, okay.
No.
I don't know about you guys, but my MySpace page is killing it. It's doing way better than my Friendster page. The next one they had was the AOL Yahoo Frankenstein, and I haven't understood this one from the beginning. That AOL is largely an irrelevant company at this point. Yahoo has managed to make themselves irrelevant over the years, and then why Verizon decided to pay money for either of the companies didn't really make sense to me. And so they are predicting that this year we'll see the actual failure. So there'll probably be a write-off done on that. I wouldn't be surprised, right? What can the real value of either of those properties be?
Well, maybe they bought it for the write-off.
Companies do that sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
I guess. Seems like you'd buy your cousin's startup for way too much.
Yeah.
Keep it in the family.
I didn't even know Verizon bought AOL and Yahoo.
Yeah, because who cares?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. And then Snapchat's on here? That's kind of a surprise to me.
Really?
Snapchat is on here,
That seemed to me where the people that were leaving Facebook, as far as age demographics go.
Isn't that where all the
they were
kids go
going,
now?
Yeah, the Snapchats.
Yeah, but at the same time, what does Snapchat do that 10 other companies can't do?
Yeah.
Right? And my understanding here, because I'm not a Snapchat user either, that it was their end-to-end encryption that was supposed to be the exciting thing, but then they've turned over keys to a number of governments at this point. So after that, it's just a chat application. Do either of you make use of it?
I have it because a couple people have said, "Oh, I'm here," and I'll go in there, and it's one of the most confusing interfaces if you don't know what you're doing in there, which I don't really. I mean, I know you can chat and send pictures and all that stuff, but just there's all these icons and with no descriptions, and you're just assumed that you know what you're doing.
And I think I'm wanting it to act like things that I know, like Facebook or Messenger or something like that. So it's very confusing, and people are like, "Oh, you should get on Snapchat." So I did, and I'm like, and I've never done it since. So
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of like last year there was that big battle between Meerkat and Periscope, right? The two video programs that were Twitter enabled.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually mix up which one was successful and which one wasn't. I want to say it was Meerkat was first, and then instead of Twitter buying them, they just created Periscope, or it might have been the other way around. But either way, today, it doesn't really matter because they're both irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I think that's where these chat programs are kind of ending up. Facebook Messenger killed a lot of that.
Well, and the new one for the kids I've heard is TikTok. That's the kind of Vine replacement.
I don't know that one.
It's like 6 second. It might be longer. I don't think they have the exact same as Vine, but TikTok, I think.
All right, TikTok is where the cool kids hang out then.
I'll check
There you go.
while you're doing that.
All right, and then the other one they had was the dishonorable mention for Goop, good old Gwyneth Paltrow, and her assorted selection of mostly women's health stuff, right? I'm looking at you guys like either of you have purchased from
Women's health, yeah, definitely. That's definitely.
yeah,
what it
I'm like,
is.
you guys are gonna look right at me, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
say I have never been on this. It is a site, right? It's a website, or is it a
Product.
company? It's a product.
It's
Yeah.
a product.
I don't even know what it is.
It's a line of products.
Yeah, and they have some strange ones like the jade egg, which is supposed to be used in a way that science has not proved valuable. And so it's a bizarre, if you are bored, just Google Gwyneth Paltrow jade egg.
Or
Not
don't.
at work.
Oh no! I just read it. Okay, yep.
Oh, is that on? Is
Yeah,
that on this page too?
yeah, I just read it.
Oh, it's
The
disappointing.
first time I was told about that, I thought they were pulling my leg. I said, "This can't be real. It's real. It's a real thing." She thinks that works. So, all right. So anyhow, there we go. Those are some of the ones I know. In the past, Peter, you and I have tried to predict companies that would change over the years, and we're terrible at it. So I don't know if there's any companies that you guys can think of that 2019 is going to be a bad year for.
All right, hot take here. I just saw on my CNN app a little bit ago, so it could be fake news, that Jeff Bezos and his wife are filing for divorce.
Are they
And they've
really?
been married for 25 years, which means that was pre-Amazon.
Yeah.
So probably not a prenup in the garage there. So I'm thinking Amazon is split into 17 smaller companies by the end
All
of the
right.
year.
So how much is Jeff Bezos worth? He's definitely in the 3 commas club,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, his doors go.
His doors
Yeah.
open
way,
that
yeah,
way,
instead of
not
this way.
yeah. So so
Jeff
I mean, he's worth
Bezos'
billions of
net
dollars. Now,
worth.
let me ask you: if you were worth, let's say you're worth
128 billion.
Billion?
$128
Billion.
billion dollars. So if you're worth $128 billion and you lose half, I'm going with the Eddie Murphy. She gets half. So now you're worth $64 billion. This fast math.
Yeah, you're still ahead of Zuckerberg, and you're behind Buffett and
Well,
Gates.
Are you in pain at that point? Like, oh, I've only got $64 billion.
Oh, well, hold on. Mackenzie Bezos is fifth on this list, who I'm assuming is his wife. She's at 1 billion. So they've already given her own category. Maybe there was a prenup, and it was, if I'm over 100 billion, you get $1 billion.
Well, it's probably shareholdings, right? So she is probably listed as an owner somehow, or
She's also an American novelist. Which
She
makes
might not
sense
need any
because
help.
He sells books.
yeah, she writes under the alias of J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, I have heard of her.
So, yeah, that's her fake pen name.
Good for her.
All right. Well, yeah, I can't think of any companies offhand. I think Red Hat is certainly in a weird spot since they got acquired by IBM. We'll have to see what happens with them over the course of the year. You have a couple others that are poised to grow. Microsoft's obviously doing really great right now, so that's an interesting one to watch. Canonical and Ubuntu have kind of fluttered around a little bit. I think VMware is in a really weird position right now, and 2019 is going to probably define what happens with them. Right now, they're doing well mostly because of Dell using them as a tracking stock and all this weird stock market stuff that's going on. So I'm curious to see how that shakes out in 2019. But
Well, we'll take a look back at this in December. And did you have any predictions?
Oh.
Anything you want to throw out there?
No, I didn't know of like half these things on this page right now. So
yeah.
MySpace is going to
yeah.
I thought Uber was going to fail this year, and it didn't. So they're still going.
Well, it took that approach that they're recommending for Facebook, basically revamp the leadership. And
Yeah.
so that could certainly help. But it doesn't matter because robots are taking our jobs anyway, as we'll see on this next article from Tom's Hardware. Hello, Jetsons. Robotic butler can open the fridge and bring you a beer, which is really the gold standard we've held robots to, of like, well, can it bring me a beer yet? And now it can. I mean, the Roomba can bring you a beer, but it can't open the fridge. So what's this all about, Tom?
All
Is
right.
this CS?
This is at a CES. CES is going on right now. It's actually going to be wrapping up tomorrow, I think. So tons of announcements coming out of it. Every time I hear them announce a robot, I always think of, do you remember in Rocky 2? Rocky's got a little bit of fame. He's got some money coming in. He buys his brother-in-law, Paulie, a robot. And Paulie somehow programs the robot to sound like a female maid. And he has it bring him a beer. And that's what I always envision when I think of robots. And then here it is. That's what they're promoting. This robot can actually get you a beer and pop the cap off. And
Because I'm
there you
guessing
go.
in the 80s, he would have had to put the beer in the robot's hand,
Yeah.
then go into the other room and have the robot bring it to him.
We've saved a whole step.
Yeah.
So, although the robot does look like every other robot we've seen in these things, the bipedal model where it has to have a huge backpack to counterbalance it.
Yeah. And why does it have to do that? Can't it just roll? I mean, because that's just creepy.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the term the uncanny valley?
Mm-mm.
So in robotics, there's this thing where if it looks like a robot, people are okay with it. But the more human it looks, there's this point, this valley, when they measure like whether people like the robot, where if it gets too close to human but it's not perfect, that people fall off and start to hate it. And so, like the animatronics at Disney World are right there on that edge where if they actually tried to carry on a conversation with you, you'd probably want to kill it, right?
So those aren't the real presidents in the Hall of Presidents.
No. Yeah, Disney's got some power, but not enough to
hire all the ex-presidents,
grave rob all that,
reincarnate. Yeah, interesting.
But although I haven't seen Jimmy Carter recently, so maybe
you don't know.
But yeah. So what they try and do is they try and make it look as human as they can without triggering people's gag reflex. So you end up with this one design. But I agree. Stick some wheels on it. I don't know. But
yeah, we'll get that in the new place. That'll be the next big thing.
This robot is capable of dancing, which is apparently a requirement. So they've got the requisite pictures that are out there.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know.
Is it dabbing? I hope not.
And it'll hold your purse. So there you go.
The guy could have put it right on that stick.
He was
that
right
didn't seem
there.
like it helped.
He could have, but honestly, I think we've evolved as a species.
He can't be asked to do those kinds
We don't
of
have to
things.
hang up our own purse. So
That's just so slow.
I mentioned the backpack. It's not a big protruding backpack. It's just the back itself is weighted for that counterweight.
Oh, here's the beer. Yeah.
The whole squat thing where it walks with it when it squats, that kind of freaks me out.
470 or 447 170. That's a Sir Mix-a-Lot song right there. All right. Fantastic. Well, speaking of CES, we have another one to show here. This one is coming to you from the Washington Post. Apple stars at Giant Tech Confab CES without actually being there. So we went to CES a few years ago, and
Sure.
Apple, I don't think
Wasn't
was on
there,
the floor
no.
then, and
So
weren't this time.
Apple's reached enough fame now where they don't do conferences anymore. They put on their own events. People come to them.
I was about to say they have their own major event by themselves.
They have
That's it.
a huge amphitheater and all. Like people go to them. One day that might change, and when they're scrambling for customers, they'll go out to these conferences. But right now they don't. So they don't have a presence at CES, but they put out a ad on the side of a building, and I mean basically they cover the entire side of this hotel with an ad, and it says, because this is in Las Vegas. What happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone. Apple.com/privacy. So what it's supposed to be is a dig on all the other manufacturers about how if you want to keep your data private and safe, stick with Apple because Apple doesn't share private keys with governments and other people. Like that's it. I kind of think this is a little tongue-in-cheek because we know that the government already has ways to unlock phones. They can get at that data. So while Apple doesn't willingly give it out, it does get out. Yeah. So it's not perfect, but they're saying, hey, if you care about privacy, use our Apple product.
Yeah, that legal battle didn't go to court because they figured out a way and they got someone to crack it. But at least they tried, I guess, is the takeaway here. Where that's a great photo because you've got the Google
the Hey Google
monorail
on the,
going,
I thought that
going
was
by at the same time.
good.
But they're obviously taking a direct jab at them as well. I mean, is that Google or is that Samsung that would be?
So both, right? If you have a Google Pixel phone or if you have a Samsung Galaxy, they all run the Google Apps framework.
Yeah.
And that means that all of your information is effectively being shared with Google, and Google uses that to fuel their ad targeting and all of that. You are sharing your information with them. Well, with Apple, you're sharing all of your information with Apple, and they use it for all sorts of things. But what they say is we use it for things that make your life better, like showing you which Kanye West song best matches the mood that you're typically in at 3 p.m. that your Apple Watch tells us. It's like that. You look at the watch. Does the watch track my mood?
I actually thought it was pretty clever. I'm like, oh, that's good. And I'm like, wait, is that 100% accurate?
Yeah.
Like,
I make things up sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just the ad itself is like, I think it stays on my phone, but
it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
It goes into iCloud, and all you have to do is, here will be another one for you to Google not at work, is the fappening, right? And you can find out how well that data is secured in the iCloud because humans are still the weakest link. And if you are using a weak PIN number or a predictable password, then your data is not, like Apple doesn't do anything extra to secure that.
That's true. Well, unfortunately, that's our final CES story because Don has a rule that we can't talk about drones or there was a roll-up TV from LG I saw, the OLED that rolls up into the base, which looked pretty cool.
They had a modular TV that was pretty neat, where you just buy the squares and stick them together, and
cool.
you could build a TV whatever size you want.
I guess you could go bigger if you wanted to, and
We have those
that's
lights,
pretty neat.
the ones that come like where they're in triangles and you can build all sorts of patterns with them.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called, but they're really cool.
I had Light Bright as a kid. Is that the same?
Have you seen the new Light Bright?
No.
It's thin, like like when you went from a CRT monitor to an LCD. Well, that's how the new Light Bright is. It's
Man.
thin.
Kids these days, they don't know how good they've got it.
Spoiled.
All right, well, Apple wasn't there, but they did have time to make their own announcements. So this is over on recode.net. Apple's going to sell its Apple TV service on Samsung TVs because Apple wants to be a service company. So we're talking about basically what's built into the Apple TV being built into TVs coming off the line?
Not necessarily. So on an Apple TV, you have a ton of tvOS apps that you can run, right?
Okay.
Those are not going to run on Samsung, okay? What they're really talking about, at least here in the beginning, is the ability to do iTunes Music and to stream from Apple TV's video service. So if you have subscriptions and things in Apple TV, you'll be able to view those. In time, we might see those apps make the jump, but I seriously doubt it because a lot of those apps actually require some decent processor power, and even the more expensive Sonys and Samsung TVs just don't have a lot of processor power. If you get a smart TV and you bring up that menu, it's slow. You can buy a $4,000 TV and it's slow right now. So I don't know why that is. That's why Roku is so awesome. You stick a Roku on and it's fast. But what's happening is we reported last week that Apple is seeing some reduced sales numbers. Their iPhone is not performing as well in a number of markets as they expected. People are holding onto their phones longer. You know, we joked about it, you and I, that we both have iPhone 10s and haven't upgraded to 10S, 10S Max, 10R, whatever. Vonne, what do you have?
I have the 10R
You sheep.
X whatever thing. Yeah. Well, no, but I just upgraded.
You didn't come from a 10. Yeah.
I came from my 6S.
Okay.
Oh, see, you held it a long time.
That's
Yeah.
a big move.
So the phones do last a long time now, and they're saying because they're waterproof, people aren't replacing them as often, and the screens don't scratch, which they absolutely do. That people just keep them longer, and phones are more expensive, so you don't want to go and buy one, and that's hurting Apple's bottom line. So now they're starting to push a lot of their services, and it just makes sense, making it where people can buy or rent an iTunes movie right from their TV. That's a whole new market.
Well, it's funny, too, because if we're talking about that, people aren't moving as much. But if you go down in this article, there is a chart showing the Apple iPhone sales versus their services revenue, and that's intended to show how, they're trying to make more money on services. But the iPhone portion of that is pretty steady in its trajectory there. And obviously, you've got the jumps when they're releasing a new one versus the times when they're not. But, I mean, that's a pretty straight line, even going up a little bit, especially from 14 to 15, 16 there. So it's not like it's a dip. It's maybe just not curving up as quickly as they'd like, and maybe they're seeing the trend is gonna kind of plateau there. But yeah, service is definitely a lower portion for them.
Yeah, and I don't want to turn this into business school, but there's this business buzzword that's being thrown around right now called predictable revenue. And if you look at the services, see how the services are a nice, steady line. They can predict from month to month what they're going to get. But with the iPhone, after that initial peak burst of sales, they don't really know. And sometimes the dips are lower than others. Like it's a rocky road that they can't necessarily predict. And you don't want to hinge your company around a single sales month, which is that's what I always called the Toys R Us model, right? Where every December they'd make a ton of money, and the rest of the year they would be in the red.
Yeah. Well, I guess the difference between the peaks and the valleys are much bigger on that graph. That they used to be peak valley, and now it's very high peak when you release something new, and very deep valley then when you don't have people kind of out of cycle upgrading to the new device. So. My favorite part of this article is actually the very first line says news out of CES, and then has an asterisk and says, I assumed they were going to say, well, Apple wasn't really at CES, but the bottom asterisk says the Consumer Electronics Show doesn't technically kick off for a couple of days, so this is a couple of days ago, but this is part of a flurry of CES timed announcements, the majority of which you can ignore.
Yeah, that is true.
I'm glad they let me know. Oh, I can ignore these stories. Fantastic. Well, that's definitely an interesting one, and we'll keep an eye on what comes out of the new Apple TV service.
Did you just get iTunes? That's it, right? I mean, that's the only thing you're really getting on a Samsung?
I guess your rented
For
movies
now,
and things that you would used to have a separate device to watch. You can access.
It would be a bigger deal if it were the apps, right? Because there's a lot of tvOS apps that are really well made, but you've
Samsung's
got to have an
probably
Apple
got
TV.
those.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know what's the major
Samsung
difference
has their
besides you
smart
get your
TV.
iTunes
Yeah, but
music
their apps
and
suck. Have you
Sure.
used them? Like,
Yeah, I do.
and so I use Plex every single day, and Plex on an Apple TV or Plex on a Roku is great.
Mhm.
Plex on my Samsung TV, and do you remember the Samsung Frame TVs that we
Yep.
talked about? I don't know, probably 10 episodes ago. That was a Christmas present to myself that we got this year. So it's a nice TV, and the smart TV hub on that it's just slow and painful, and the apps are just not great. So
You can't even talk to the remote.
I know. Yep.
It's like,
I only ever have
Living
Apple
in the
TVs,
80s.
so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh yeah, we're
Yeah,
a Roku
that's
house.
always-
We have
I have-
lots of Rokus.
We have one Roku, but I still like the Apple TV. I'm an Apple fan. What can I say?
all right, well, let's shift gears now to our next article over on ZDNet, ZDNet.com. Linux 5 is on the way. So this is something that's been scheduled. We knew this was coming, but
we really didn't.
no.
Yeah, so the Linux kernel,
Okay.
we've been on the Linux kernel 4 for many, many years, and we're all the way up to 4.21. So that was the last kernel revision, and Linus Torvalds announced just a few days ago that, hey, it's time, we're flipping over to Linux 5.0. Now, when I heard the news, I was caught by surprise. I knew eventually we'd go to 5, and usually when there's a major change like that, there's some significant change to the system, like when ELF binaries rolled out or something like that. It was a big, big deal. This time, it's almost comical because his reason for going to 5.0 is not that there's a major change, but because he just felt that the sub number was too high. He said he ran out of fingers and toes to count the sub versions. So, he got to 21. It's too many.
That's
Time to go to
awesome.
5.0. And that's it.
It's a good system.
So it's a big jump. It reminds me of when Cisco's iOS, their inter-network operating system that runs on the routers, when they went from the 12-point line to the 15-point line, they skipped 13 and 14. So a huge jump. And the only thing they changed was how they managed licenses. So in other words, how they bill you for the service. But everything else was the same. This is very similar. So we're doing a big number jump, no significant change associated with
Well, it's like a mental thing. It's like play on your psychological evaluation of 12 to 15. That's huge. It's
Yeah.
got to be so much
It's like
better.
5G. Why don't we just go to 6G?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that'll be real. Do tech companies skip 13 like elevators?
I don't know.
You don't see a lot of products that
Hmm.
are up in those numbers there.
Yeah, Apple. You had macOS 10.13.
Sure,
They didn't skip, or at least that subversion.
Yeah, well, we'll see in a few years, I guess, when 13
Usually-
dot whatever. comes
Usually, when a
out.
number gets skipped, I'm always excited. Like, why did they skip? What happened? And remember when Microsoft went from Windows 8 to Windows 10,
no,
and it turned out to be a programming reason why they did that. So there was some logic behind it. But it's usually interesting when they skip a number.
All right. Well, so I guess the surprise was not that Linux 5, or that they stuck with 5 and didn't just go to 6.
Yeah, well, you could say that, I
That's
suppose.
what
Or
I-
that they
that's what
didn't
I
go to
meant
10
when I
to be
said
in
it
line with
wasn't a
everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, the 5S.
we need to get Mac OS, Windows, and Linux all in the same version numbers.
That'd
It'd
be
be nice
great.
and confusing.
Yeah, compare apples to apples. All right, let's move over now to TechCrunch. GitHub free users now get unlimited private repositories. So, maybe all those people that were mad at Microsoft when they bought GitHub can now say thank you.
GitHub, it's the world's most popular code repository for developers. So, every developer these days is expected to at least have a functional understanding of how Git works to either be able to use GitHub or services like it, like GitLab. With GitHub, their business model has always been that if you have a free account, you can have as many repos as you want as long as they're public, right? As long as they're being shared with society, you can do it and they don't charge you a dime. And if you want a private one, you've got to pay. So now they've changed that a little bit, that you can have as many private ones as you want, but you can only have up to 3 collaborators. So like if the 3 of us wanted to do a project, we could use free GitHub accounts. We could make it a private repository and we could all work on it. We wouldn't have to pay a dime. But the moment we wanted to bring a 4th person in, that's where you have to pay. So it's kind of like saying small businesses or small teams now get it free, and the bigger ones have to pay. This is more than likely because of the Microsoft acquisition, right? So Microsoft can afford to give a little bit more away, and they want to make sure that people are happy and stay with GitHub and don't move to services like GitLab. GitLab has seen a huge increase since the Microsoft acquisition, so I'm sure they're combating that.
All right, fantastic. All right, just a couple more stories before we get to Vonne's insights. No pressure. This one on the New York Times, nytimes.com. Marriott concedes 5 million passport numbers lost to hackers were not encrypted. So I assume this concession is as a result of GDPR. Otherwise, we wouldn't be hearing about this for 6 months or so.
Well, it's actually a result of their mixed messages they keep sending. So they did the disclosure, although I think they did wait too long, but they did the disclosure and said, hey, there was a breach, 5 million customers' contact information may have been released. Here's the things that make that up. And they mentioned passport numbers. And people asked, were the passport numbers encrypted? And over the last month or so, Marriott has made several statements that were very vague and ambiguous. They just wouldn't commit to the fact of saying, yes, they were unencrypted, that we did not store them encrypted even at rest, and that was that. So now they have actually come out and said, yes, we lost this information in the breach, and it was not encrypted, so they absolutely have that. Your passport numbers were indeed disclosed, along with your name, most likely your address, and a handful of other details. So, and honestly, I'm not surprised to hear it. A lot of organizations will encrypt like your account password, and they'll do strong encryption, but the rest of your records, they typically won't encrypt if it's just your name or just your address, because it's technically information somebody could find out anyway, right? But passport number is a little bit different. I couldn't just find out somebody's passport number.
Is that something that, I mean, I don't do a lot of identity theft myself. Is that something that people can do a lot with, a passport number?
They do have the e-passports now that have an RFID in them, which communicates your passport number. So in theory, that could be leveraged. Otherwise, I don't know what you could do with that.
Yeah, a friend of mine was flying international actually yesterday, and she posted on Facebook a picture on the flight, and it had her passport opened. I was like, I think you should take that photo down. I was like, people are getting up in arms about this, about passport numbers. I'd probably take that picture down.
I've been through the e-passport booth, and on the scanner, you actually lay your passport down, and it takes a picture of your passport as it scans the chip. So they're able to compare the two. They'd have to match. So, a snapshot of your passport would probably be more useful to an attacker than just, well, your passport number would be on that picture. So,
But you're fancy global entry now, aren't you?
Yeah, but you still have to scan your passport.
Okay.
It's still private. You just get to cut in the line.
Must be nice. All right. Well, it looks like that was only a portion of the, I guess, 383 million records. So good for them. So
it's 5 million. Woo-hoo!
300 and some odd million were actually encrypted. So yeah, as long as you get some of it right, people will focus on that. All right. Our last story for the day here over on BBC.com. This is important. Smartphone users warned to be careful of the Antichrist. I assume that he or she has a Snapchat account and is getting more and more followers. But this is according to the leader of the Russian Orthodox Church. Are you ready, Don?
Sure. The leader of the Russian Orthodox Church, this is a big deal, right? That is a big church, so with a number of followers. Not so much here in the U.S., obviously, but over in Russia, and basically their head, I would say like their equivalent of a pope, but he's not a pope. But basically he came out and made a couple of statements, and basically highlighting how we've allowed the World Wide Web to control our opinions, our views, our morals and values. Like a lot of that is being fed to our younger generations. And if you grew up watching YouTube idiots or people like us, then what kind of an adult are you going to turn into? And so what the actual statement was the Antichrist is the person who will be at the head of the World Wide Web, controlling all of humankind.
So Jeff Bezos.
Or Mark Zuckerberg. I guess you could probably tag either of them. Jeff Bezos. People like to call him out, but he's never really told me how to vote. But
Well,
Mark
not
Zuckerberg has.
subconsciously. I'm sure he has.
That's right.
He's got a direct line into your Alexa at night.
I mean, he tells me what soap to buy. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And that's controlling your brain, just like the chemtrails.
That's very possible. I didn't think about that.
Interesting.
Here I was thinking it was the fluoride in the water all this time.
Yeah, that's part of it too. But your teeth look great. So
it is an extreme statement, but honestly, if you think about it, if you control the communications on the web, it's like propaganda. If you control people's information, you do effectively control them. So,
as Newman said in Seinfeld, when you control the mail, you control information.
I guess that's true.
And that mail has been replaced with smartphones, and Newman has been replaced with the Antichrist.
Yeah, if you control the mail, you control the
Bed Bath and Beyond.
Yeah, no one gets 20% off this month.
I've got 5 of these, and now I get 100% off. All right, well, that's it for the news, but that's not it for us today on Technado. We've got more, including our interview with Vonne, coming up right after this.
Enjoying Technado? Then you'll want to check out Asks Me Anything, another podcast from the ITProTV network. In each episode, the subject matter experts from ITProTV field questions submitted by viewers like you from Twitter using the hashtag AsksMeAnything. Learn more at ITPro.tv/podcasts.
Welcome back to Technado. All right, we are here now. Well, we've been here with Vonne Smith, but we're gonna talk to Vonne a little bit more now and get her take. So, Vonne, one of the things that you focus on, you said, is Microsoft Office and doing a lot of the training for that here. So 2019 is out now, and I mean, what are the big features we should be excited about?
Not much, to be completely honest. 2019, yeah, it's always like a big buzz thing, right? It's going from Office 2016 to 2019. Well, the thing is, if you've already been on an Office 365 subscription, it's no different. Like, there's like a tiny bit of difference in the ribbon, like the icons, like all the different icons are a little bit cleaner. They've gone to like the clean look for, like, it's kind of big in graphics, like nothing but white space and a single color, that kind of stuff. So that's what the icons have done. But as a product by itself, it's kind of hard to say like this is so big and new. You're gonna get your socks blown off or something like that.
Is it still the Metro UI? The big Microsoft
or modern UI.
Or they
lost that trademark lawsuit.
Right, yeah, that's true.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, because they were calling it the Metro UI, but turns out there was another company that already made a product called Metro UI, and they had to rename it to the Modern UI. Oh. And that's
okay. Well, I wasn't really using Windows that much anyway, so.
All right, so Office when we're talking about Office 2019, that is just the installed local copy, like. Nothing changed to 365 when this changed.
Correct. Yeah. And okay. I guess that's the biggest thing. It's kind of been the ongoing thing with any of the Office products of trying to differentiate Office 365 and Office 2016. And now you just replace that with 2019. You're talking about the perpetual licenses, the ones where you're actually buying the old box. Remember the boxes like along the wall in like Office Depot or Office Max or whatever you have
right
to go
behind down there.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I don't have Office back there, but
but like you would go and like purchase the software, and then you would have to install it, and like that was your copy, and then you didn't get a new copy until like the next version came out, like Office 2000, and then Office 2002 was the next one. Wow, I went all the way to 2000. Where am I?
3 wasn't? Or, no,
there was a
2002.
2002.
Yeah.
There was XP. There was Office XP. Yeah, but there was always those were the only like installments, and the upgrades that you got was going from 2010 to 2013. And those are the perpetual licenses. And so you can still buy all of the Office products that way. So I think, and I've read a bunch of articles about how Microsoft with Office 2019, they were doing like a commercial target. They were trying to target companies. And of course, since we're on Office 365, we never got those targets. They're trying to target companies that wanted to make the jump, or like, hey, like go ahead and upgrade to 2019. You're not ready for Office 365 because you're scared about the cloud stuff and the internet, because of course some companies can't be constantly connected to the internet. So that was what they were supposed to be pushing with it. But as for like new features, again, it kind of depends on where you came from. If you're on 2016 and you never saw anything new, going to 2019, the interface look a little different. You're going to have some of those features that they rolled out in Office 365. They've kind of like packaged it in that like static version of 2019, but they're still leaving quite a few features out. Of course, trying to promote that like you should go to Office 365.
So if you're a company, though, I remember back in my corporate days that when we went from like Office 2000 to 2003 or whatever, that we would have to train employees. So we'd have to set up some classes so the employees would learn here's how the new ribbon works, or here's how this feature's changed, or whatever to teach them. But if you're going from 2016 to 2019, is it small enough of a difference where people aren't going to have to retrain?
I would say so. And like it's funny when you say that. Remember when it went to the Office button, where the file menu went away,
and people freaked out,
like lost their minds, and I kind of did too. I'm like, I don't even know what to do. Like you always went to File Open. Now it's Office button open. That was a huge change. Going from like the toolbars to the ribbon, massive like UI change. The ribbon's been around for a while.
Yeah, several generations now.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, the buttons look a little like less shiny.
So it sounds like I mean, you were talking before about how you went from an iPhone 6 to the 10 XR or the XR or whatever. Microsoft obviously wants everyone to get the latest version of everything as it comes out, but is it your experience that and Don, you mentioned like working at some other companies before, that people make that change each time, or we'll kind of look at it and say, is it worth it? Hey, we'll wait till the next one comes out, or we'll wait till one after that comes out. In
my opinion, people usually waited until they absolutely were forced to move. So
they stopped supporting the one you're on.
I knew people that were running Office 2000 just up until a couple of years ago, and when Microsoft would end support, and people didn't care as long as they could install it and run it.
Okay,
it was fine. And where they started running into problems were that if you go way back to Office 2000, it was only a 32-bit install, and there's a lot of plugins and tools that have gone 64-bit now, and they wouldn't work. So when it comes to Microsoft Office, in my experience, people aren't really excited to upgrade. I mean, is that what you've seen, Vonne?
I mean, for a lot of people, I just have to type a letter. You can use a keyboard and put it on a piece of paper and print it, or whatever you have, whether it's 2000 or 2019. Like it's all, I think it depends on your need. A lot of it comes down to budget. I mean, it's expensive. And that's actually something that I found interesting of like, if you're going to purchase a standalone, perpetual license install of 2019, it's actually more money than if you just bought an Office 365 subscription. And especially if you buy an Office 365 subscription that allows you to download a local copy of that software, which was basically the same thing. You're actually paying less for the Office 365.
So that model's kind of changed. Instead of saying we want you to upgrade, it's more of we want you to subscribe.
Yeah.
And pay monthly or yearly. I'll tell you, for me, Office 365 became a no-brainer. You used to know a lot of people that would steal Office, right? You go online and bootleg it, especially college kids. But Office 365 is pretty cheap, and they give you 5 installs. So if you got a family, you can install it on 5 computers for, I think it starts at like $7. Now I'm going to sound like a Microsoft commercial. But for $7 a month, it's not like you're having to go and pay $400 for Office just to get one install. So that whole market's changed quite a bit.
If you're going to steal it too, you're going to OpenOffice or something like that. Probably.
Yeah. Today you've got a lot more competition.
Yeah.
OpenOffice is pretty good, or LibreOffice is the one you want. As far as the core features, like Vonne mentioned, writing a letter, whatever, LibreOffice will do it, and it'll save in Microsoft formats.
So does Microsoft position it that way, where 365 is better than 2019? Because it feels like, to me, you're getting less. You don't have all the features there. Obviously, you've got different features, availability all over the place, and the storage and all that. But
I think like the actual page, and you have to like really search for Office 2019 on the Microsoft website, because of course all it's putting is Office 365, Office 365. And then when it comes to like, here's 2019, that page right there. Sorry, I'm looking at Don's computer. It's just like, here you go. That's it. And if you look at that comparison chart, it's like, here, look you can buy this. There's 2 check marks. And then all the other stuff, all the way down to like, oh, you can do all these great things and it's automatically updated. And so I think they're obviously right here visually, you can see that's what I'm getting for 2019, and it's $250. But then the column right next to it, $8.25.
$8.25 a month. And
Yeah,
you get all this other stuff. My understanding was that when they decided they were going to put out an Office 2019, what they did is last September, they just took a snapshot of what was available in Office 365, froze it, and said, that's 2019.
Yes.
And so immediately afterwards, once you got into October, Office 365 was already more advanced. And even though that's still branded Office 2016, it's actually got features that Office 2019 doesn't have.
And didn't you you got on like some mailing list? It's like, okay, I'm going to get that commercial version of 2019. You installed it.
It was a nightmare.
We looked at it and I'm like, that's the exact same.
Yep.
It looks exactly the same. There is nothing in my mind, again, from where I came from or what I already have. I'm like, there's nothing new.
They changed the logo to say 2019.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's actually funny because there's another link that I sent you about the new logos.
There we go.
So supposedly, and I don't know this is fake news. I don't think so. But look at they have new icons that are coming out.
Is that Teams?
Yeah, there's Teams and Word and
what's the Y? Is that Yammer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're gonna upgrade their logos, and that's actually been around. Those same Office logos for 2016 and 2013, they've been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about those logos, honestly, but it's also because I've been staring at them for so many years,
Yeah.
But I supposedly that's coming down, and so maybe like a whole new branding that's going to happen with that. And then again, like the ribbon, that was like a big difference in the sense of like how it looks. It looks cleaner. And this actually happened like right in the middle of filming one of my, I think it was PowerPoint or something. It's like, oh, look, there's a whole new interface. And I think it's not the greatest picture, but I think when things like that change, people kind of freak out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, everything's different. Oh my gosh, my screen doesn't look like your screen when I'm doing any type of instruction. And I'm like, it's the same button. They just made it look a little cleaner looking, it's a little bit more vector looking.
Yeah, I don't see the difference. I don't nothing's jumping out here at me as being really different.
The biggest thing is like they just look simplified. They call it a simplified ribbon. The graphics are a little, again, more vectory. If you don't know what a vector is, then that doesn't make any difference to you, but they just look cleaner and sharper. And that's really the biggest difference visually that I can see. There is a features list, like in the Microsoft help files, that I feel is if somebody's like looking for like, I want to actually compare features, that one right there, that actually lists everything out as like what is new in the software. And so you can see there's some features. There's actually something in, I think, Excel where I'm like, I don't even know what that thing is. That math thing right there, that latex.
Oh, latex support?
Yeah.
So
I'm not a math person.
LaTeX in the Linux Unix world, we run into that a lot. It's kind of like a typesetting program that you can type things out like complex mathematical equations, which are difficult to get rendered correctly. You don't want to print it out and all of a sudden two numbers that are supposed to be divided or side by side and so on. And so it has a syntax where people can write that will define and let you write out equations. It's not just equations, really any typing.
So it's just like character sets. It's like open type font faces where you have like fractions and ordinals and glyphs and swashes. Sorry, I'm geeking out on typefaces right now.
It helps you kind of define that layout in a predictable manner. And there's not like an official, here's the LaTeX tool you need for editing. It's usually people use Emacs with LaTeX support or something like that. So they've added that into Word. But again, even if you're on Office 2016, if you're using Office 365, you've received this as part of your regular Office 365 updates.
So going back to what Don was saying earlier about training, are we even putting out new courses for 2019, or are we basically assuming, 2016 you're good?
Don?
It doesn't sound like there's anything
so far,
crazy.
Literally the only difference is anywhere it says 2016, it now says 2019. Everything else is identical. So that's kind of the nice part is that you don't have to retrain your company, which also means we don't need to refilm videos. There's no point. It's all the same.
It's like I actually kind of want to film like a update. Nothing's really different.
It's just showing the logo. Look, if you look here, you'll see it's a 6.
But again, if you're coming from a perpetual license, you've been on 2003 or whatever, 2007, right? And you're on Word 2007, and you've been on that, and then they upgrade you to an Office 365, and then you get a local installation, and you go ahead and fire that up. It will be significantly different. But that's because you're going from like over 10 years.
But in that case, you watch the 2016 training and you know what you're doing then.
Yeah, but you could definitely watch all the 2016 training and be right on track because I'm on an Office 365, so everything that I'm doing is upgraded to that particular level. And actually, in any of my videos, I'll specifically say this is an Office 365 only feature. So y'all on a perpetual license, you're not going to see this.
Yeah.
But you'll see everything else.
Now, I've been skimming through that article, and I see where it looks like Microsoft Project and Microsoft Visio have taken some updates. Now, those are not on the normal update cadence, right? So that may actually be, for people who use those products, there might be some new features there.
And those are actually like separate than just regular Office 365.
Right.
You really have
extra.
to look at those like product plans because there's even ones we've actually run into it where you only get the online versions of the Office products. Like you cannot locally install a hard copy of Word or Excel onto your computer. You can only use the online version of any of the software, which for me as a more advanced users, it is significantly lower. Like the online versions of like Word or PowerPoint, people ask me questions. I'm like, oh, go to this button. Wait, you don't have that button. What? Oh, you're in the online version. Oh, okay. Like to me, it's like significantly less, but I know these products a lot different than people.
Now, are you typically able to help them then find a way to do something, or are there certain features where you say you just have to be on the local version to do that?
Yeah, that's normally because to me, but that's also maybe I'm a little biased because that's my go-to answer is how to do it in the local version. So I'm looking for that answer, and I haven't found like the workaround or whatever that you have to do on the online. And I always tend to like answer it with like a more complex answer than you probably need because I know it at a different level. So sometimes it's almost harder for me to kind of go down, if you want to say. I know. I'm like, that sounds so mean, but it's just different. And
I'd love to help you with your PowerPoint, Peter, but
too smart.
We're really not on the same level. PowerPointing. Well, that's great.
Speaking of being on a different level, you're a big Mac user, and I know for years, Office on Windows and Office on Mac were really two different things. They started shoring up Windows and Excel to get them more similar. We saw Outlook in the last version in 2016 start to become more similar. So how's that looking? Are they at feature parity yet? Is there still a difference?
Pretty close, honestly. And a lot of the stuff, again, since we're on that upgrading stuff, that's another big reason why they want to push the Office 365, besides getting like, this is the only version you get and you're not going to get any updates. You'll get security, but not feature updates. Anytime something new comes out, I'm like, oh, it's not on Mac. Give it about 4 months or so. Oh, look, now you can do that in the Mac version. So it's definitely moving up to where it's getting closer, way more than it used to be in the past. You did mention something as soon as you said Mac, and then like how do they correlate? One thing that was interesting in the Office 2019, the requirements that's for actually running it, you have to be on Windows 10. It will not run on any other operating system besides that.
I didn't know that. So like Windows 7, Windows 8, they're out?
It won't. It doesn't support it. So that was like kind of a big thing is it will support Windows 10. You have to be on that operating system. So that might be another reason you talk about like why would somebody upgrade or why not? If they don't have Windows 10, you're not going to be able to get Office 2019.
So if you want that 6 turned upside down, you've got to now go buy a new computer. And
on the Mac, I think it was Sierra was the like Sierra, High Sierra. What are we on the Mojave?
Mojave.
Yeah, so you do have to your operating system does have to be a little bit more upgraded to be able to use Office 2019. Again, maybe another reason why, well, if you go to Office 365.
Yeah.
So
on the Mac side, I know why they're doing it, which is part of the file security and file synchronization features they're using because they enable collaboration where two people can edit the same document at the same time. And Apple rolled out some features there that support that a few versions ago. On the Windows side, you were able to do that under Windows 7. So I think they've just made the choice, like, this is how we're going to force people to upgrade. Because, a lot of people are perfectly happy with Windows 7, but support has ended for it. Same thing with Windows 8. Mm-hmm. You will upgrade.
Well, Vonne, thank you so much for ruining my my buzz and excitement about 2019. I was ready
sorry.
to go to Best Buy and just waiting to hear your review. But now it sounds like I'll wait till 2022 when. Or 2021, I don't know when the next. It's kind of the cycle we're on now.
They've been on a 3-year cadence,
Mm-hmm.
but that's probably not going to be the case anymore, is it?
With 365 now.
I mean, that's what everybody's saying. I mean, who knows? You know,
Is this the last version? Could this be?
Yeah, I mean,
that's what they're saying about Windows 10.
That was the whole they did the 2000, 2002, and then 2003, but that was a long time ago. So who knows? I mean. Yeah. Who knows, if they'll just stop doing perpetual licenses altogether? I mean, Adobe did, basically.
Maybe they'll just stop doing Office and switch over to LibreOffice.
Well, they said they had, one website said there was 1.2 billion users for Office.
Really? Now,
That's
the
what it
Earth's
said.
population is
Like
6 billion.
Isn't it 7
right?
now?
7 billion?
Yeah, I think
okay.
1 billion people were born last year.
All right, so
fake
1 out of
news,
7
who knows?
people. That's a pretty hefty use. Although, if I have 5 installs, do I count 5 times?
Oh, maybe.
I guess you would.
Who knows? but I mean, like where you're saying, like open office, people know Word. I mean, I think it's kind of like our collective consciousness about like, oh, I need to use a computer. I have to use Word. You know, like my mom's a perfect example of that. You know, I have to have Office. What do you need Office for, Mom? Like you don't do that kind of stuff. You can do all of that stuff on, Notes or even like whatever's built into whatever device you decide to buy, because she thinks that the thing she needs to do is buy a new device. I don't know.
Maybe she's secretly like a Microsoft Access master. And,
no.
whipping up databases.
As the Technado live fact checker point out, there are now 7.7 billion people on Earth, according
People have been busy.
to Wikipedia, what I just wrote a minute ago on Wikipedia. It's 7.7 billion. So makes those numbers really less impressive on only 1.7 billion
I know.
installs. That's nothing these days.
Meanwhile, 3 billion have a Snapchat account.
So, well, thank you so much for that information, and thanks for joining us on Technado. It was good to have you, and I hope you won't be a stranger.
Sure. I'll come back if you want me to.
Fantastic.
So come back and tell us why not to do Office 2022.
Yeah.
All right. Well, while we were in the break a moment ago, we were able to convince Don to show one more CES article because it's a lot of fun. And I was skeptical about showing this because there's talk now it might be a publicity stunt, but it's still just a lot of fun to watch. So apparently a self-driving Tesla, or a Tesla in that self-driving mode with a driver in it, hit and killed a robot at CES. And I say killed because they say it didn't work anymore. And there it is, the moment of impact. And there's a lot of signs that have us thinking this could be foul play or staged. The fact that we're talking about this robot that we would not have been otherwise could be a leading contributor. But Don, you see a shadowy figure?
Well, so one of the posters said you could see a rope, and if you watch over here in the bottom left corner, after it knocks it over, then for just a moment, you can see there it is right there, what looks like a bobbing rope that may have been tethered to the robot. I think it's a little odd that this guy runs out. He's obviously concerned, but he doesn't stand it up. When you stand up,
no. If someone's hit by a car, you immediately
you're not supposed to move them, right?
Neck.
Yeah.
I think the robot's neck is probably fine, and if there's damage, it would be on the right side, which you can't see.
Oh, all of a sudden we got Don here, robot doctor.
Well, it's
why aren't all the other cars stopping?
Yeah,
if I saw that, I would jump out.
Peter, you mentioned during the break, like the Tesla doesn't slow down or swerve at all. It's a straight trajectory.
What concerns me is, well, first of all, you're assuming that in autonomous mode that the Tesla's going to see it and make a move. But even if it didn't, if something was broken, you'd think that after any kind of impact, it would brake or stop and
collaborate and listen.
Yeah, exactly. Nice is back with a brand new invention. But the driver's supposed to be in there as well. We know you're supposed to have your hands on the wheel, but they probably don't. But still, if I'm watching a movie on my iPad or reading a book while my car's driving and I hear a bump of a robot, I'm going to hit the brake, I think, at that point. And that didn't happen. The Tesla just kept on going. So a lot of conspiracy theories out there. This is a Russian company. This is the Promobot. The Model V4, for those of you wondering, and it has met Vladimir Putin in the past. So
the plot.
I didn't go to
the plot does thicken.
No, I want to. I haven't been to their website, although their website's probably being slammed with traffic right now. Which mission accomplished, right?
Right.
Did you go to the article I sent you too? There, we've got that
Oh no, I
great
was on the
picture of Putin.
YouTube article, but if he had met Vladimir Putin, they would have that on their homepage, wouldn't they? That's a big deal.
Wait, but this company is at the CES?
Well, they're there, but apparently the robot is unable to be repaired in the time that they need it to. So they say, we brought this robot from Philadelphia to participate at CES. Now it neither cannot participate in the event or be recovered.
Oh, here it is.
English is a second language.
I've got the promo bot shaking hands. We just missed it there. Shaking hands with Vladimir Putin, who doesn't look terribly impressed.
Little side eye there.
It looks like he's tolerating the robot and
other robots that weren't hit. He likes the robots that don't get hit by cars.
It's not a bear, so I mean.
All right.
Well, I think that story we can all agree was worth taking the time to go back for. So we'll keep you updated on the conspiracy theory. Where we've got the Zapruder film here, and everyone's going to be analyzing this and finding out exactly what happened, and we'll get to the bottom of this for you. But first, before we let you go, we want to let you know about a couple of things coming up. First of all, it's webinar season again. Now that the holidays are behind us, got a couple coming up. If you head over to ITPro.TV/webinars, you can check those out. The first one coming up on January 17th, 10 must-have skills for leadership in IT with Joe Peacock. She's going to be taking you through that. And then we've got a little unique one there coming up on the 31st, 5 common questions about starting an IT career. And that is featuring our own Don Bazette here, then also Zach Hill from IT Career Questions, a big YouTube channel. And so he'll have some great insight there as well. We're going to bring him in remotely and have a fun podcast or fun webinar there. So you can check that out at ITPro.TV/webinars to register for the upcoming ones. You can also see all the past webinars there and go ahead and watch them on demand. So if you miss out, you've still got an opportunity to go find those things. Also want to let you know about an offer if you're interested in learning more about ITProTV over at go.ITPro.TV/Technado. Check us out there and find out some information about a 7-day free trial as well as a 30% off coupon code for your membership. You can also request a demo of ITProTV for Teams and find out more information about getting your whole team upskilled as you move here into the new year. So any final thoughts, guys, before we close this one up?
Nope, it's an exciting kickoff to our year. I'm looking forward to all of the great gadgets to make fun of out of CES. So far, I've not seen anything significant this year, so we'll have to keep watching.
Well, but getting to see a robot run over by a car,
I guess there's value there.
There's pleasure. It's the same kind of the pleasure I get from seeing, oh, look at the cool new drone. Don gets that same pleasure from, oh, the drone was shot out of the sky. So we have different things that make us happy, and that's what makes this fun. So thanks so much, both of you, for joining us today, and thank you for joining us, and we will see you back next week on Technado.
Are you enjoying Technado? Then be sure to check out our other podcast, Ask Me Anything, where our subject matter experts answer your questions. Here's the latest episode, and here's the full playlist. And as always, be sure to subscribe to ITProTV's channel. ITProTV!